Oliver, thanks very much for joining us. Just give me your sense of I suppose, the current outlook for 2021, particularly looking at the sort of macroeconomic environment.
It certainly doesn't feel like to be much cheerful, but I think there are reasons to be cheerful at the moment. We see a large-scale rollout of vaccines across the European countries. We have a Brexit deal in place. The recovery in Asia is really helping export-driven countries in Europe. The 750 billion European Recovery Fund will come into play this year. And so far, all the government measures have really avoided a large-scale rise in unemployment or company bankruptcies. I'm not saying there are not any risks to this, but at the moment, really the outlook looks significantly brighter. And we should hopefully see a sustained recovery from Q2 onwards.
And you're obviously having to look at the fundamentals, Oliver. What are you seeing in terms of particularly, I guess, the occupier side, occupier markets?
We did see a recovery in office take-up after a very slow summer, but occupiers remain very cautious. They want to analyze in detail the impact of COVID on their business, and they're holding back with investments. And so take-up for 2020 as a whole was about 40% lower than in 2019. At the same time, we saw a lot of completions coming through, a lot of construction that has started way before this crisis hit. And together with more companies offering space for subleasing, this has sort of driven up vacancy rates slightly. And this will probably continue ahead just because we're going to see more completions coming through. We have to say, though, that when the markets went into this crisis, vacancy rates across Europe have actually been very low. Looking at rents, prime rents have actually held up comparably well. There is no particular market where prime rents saw a significant drop. One has to say, though, that incentives have gone up here a bit, and the pressure is certainly for office space that is sort of in secondary locations or more of secondary quality. For the start of this year, given that we're all back in lockdown at the moment, I think it's fair to assume that occupier activity will remain low. We will see vacancy rising, steadily again until we actually see a sustained economic recovery and companies have the confidence again to make decisions about their future needs for space.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting, I think, to track that, particularly over the course of the first half of 2021. Thanks very much for joining us, Oliver.
You're welcome.